Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be diving deep into something
Ooh,
that's
I like it.
been debated for centuries.
Centuries. Wow.
The idea of unforgivable sins.
Unforgivable sins.
And you've given us this text exploring
Right.
why, according to the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
there's this difference
Okay.
between God's forgiveness for humans
Yeah.
and the eternal condemnation of Satan
Right. Right.
and the fallen angels.
For fallen angels. Okay.
That's a big one.
It is.
It makes you think about
Yeah.
free will, right?
Yeah.
What are the differences between humans and angels?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
what actions
Right.
really cross that line?
What is unforgivable?
Yeah, into the unforgivable.
Totally.
So are there things that are so bad,
yeah.
choices that are so defiant,
Right.
that even a God
Mm-hmm.
known for love and mercy
Right.
might deem them beyond redemption?
Yeah, exactly. And the text really starts out
Okay.
setting the stage with the story of Lucifer,
Lucifer, okay.
the angel who became Satan.
Yeah, yeah.
His fall from grace is really like the prime example of this unforgivable sin.
It's interesting
Yeah.
because you think about Lucifer before the rebellion.
Right.
He wasn't this
Yeah.
monstrous figure
No.
lurking in the shadows. He
Right.
was this being of,
Incredible beauty.
incredible beauty.
Power, called the light bearer.
Yeah, the light bearer.
That's right. The text emphasizes Lucifer's initial perfection,
Okay.
his high position in heaven. He wasn't created evil.
Right.
He became evil.
That makes it even more...
Right. And that's what makes his fall
Yeah.
more dramatic and, as the text argues,
Okay.
all the more irreversible.
So what was it about Lucifer's actions
Okay.
that made his sin unforgivable?
Good question.
Was it simply the ambition, the desire to be equal to God?
Right.
Because even humans
Mm-hmm.
throughout history have dealt with pride,
Yeah.
thirst for power.
Of course. You've got a great point there.
Yeah.
So the text dives into this
Okay.
by highlighting this crucial difference
bit.
between human and angelic nature.
Huh?
It suggests that angels, unlike humans,
Okay.
are created with a complete and unwavering understanding
Okay.
and his divine order.
Okay.
So their choices are made with
Yeah.
perfect knowledge of the consequences.
So they know.
Yes, it's like a judge
Okay.
who knowingly breaks the law
Right.
that they're supposed to uphold.
They know better.
Exactly.
It's less about
yeah,
a momentary lapse
Yeah.
or succumbing to temptation.
right.
It's more about a deliberate...
Right. A conscious
Right.
rejection of God's authority
Okay.
with full awareness
Of what that means.
of what that means. Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
what makes Lucifer's rebellion
Uh-huh.
so profound and, according to the text,
Yeah.
so unforgivable. Okay.
He didn't simply make a mistake.
Right.
He challenged
Yeah.
the very foundation of heaven's hierarchy, knowing full well
Yeah.
the magnitude of his defiance.
Okay. So if we're buying into this idea
Okay.
that angels have this heightened awareness,
Okay.
this crystal clear understanding of
Right.
and wrong,
Uh-huh.
does that mean
Good question.
they don't have free will the same way that humans do?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question.
Right. Because it almost sounds like they're programmed
Right.
to make the right choice.
Well, the text doesn't necessarily
Okay.
deny angels free will,
Okay.
but it suggests that their choices
Uh-huh.
carry a different weight
Okay.
because of their inherent understanding.
I see.
They can choose,
Okay.
but the consequences of choosing against God
Sure.
are far more severe
Right.
and permanent,
Yeah.
precisely because
Right.
they knew what they were doing.
So it's not just about
Right.
the act itself. It's about the
If
level
it's about the
of awareness and intent behind it.
the intent
Right.
that changes things.
Totally. That adds a whole new dimension
Right.
to the concept of sin.
The concept of sin.
Yeah, because it shifts the focus
Yeah.
from the outward action
Right.
to the inner state of the making the choice.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
And the text uses this distinction
Right.
to explain why repentance and forgiveness are possible
Uh-huh.
for humans,
Okay.
but seemingly not for angels.
Right.
Humans are constantly learning, growing,
Right.
changing.
We make mistakes.
We make mistakes.
We sin out of ignorance,
Yeah.
weakness,
Yeah.
or even just a flawed understanding
Right.
of God's will.
We don't always know what we're doing.
Right. But angels,
Yeah.
according to the text, aren't bound by those limitations.
Okay.
So their rebellion is seen
Okay.
as this definitive rejection,
Okay.
a conscious severing of the bond with God.
That makes me think about all the times
Yeah.
in the Bible where humans
Okay.
commit horrible acts,
Mm-hmm.
things that seem just as defiant
Right.
as Lucifer's rebellion.
Yeah.
Yet they're offered a path
Right.
to redemption.
Right.
How does that
Good question.
square with this idea?
That's a question that has puzzled theologians
Yeah.
for centuries.
It seems like a double standard almost.
Right. But the text seems to suggest
Okay.
that it all goes back to the nature of repentance.
All right.
True repentance involves a
Yeah.
genuine change of heart,
Okay.
turning away from sin,
Yeah.
a deep desire
Uh-huh.
to reconcile with God.
Right.
And the text implies
Okay.
that this kind of transformation is
Yeah.
possible for humans
Okay.
because we're capable of growth and change.
Right.
But for angels who supposedly acted
Okay.
with full knowledge
Right.
and intent, that kind of change
Yeah.
is impossible.
They made their choice.
They made their choice, and
There's no going back.
there's no going back.
Wow.
Yeah,
So we've been talking about this idea of angelic sin being unforgivable
right,
because of their awareness and their choice to rebel against God.
right.
Makes me think about the
Yeah,
good angels,
yeah.
the ones who didn't join Lucifer.
Uh-huh.
What are they doing
That's a fascinating question.
during all of this?
Yeah, it gets to the heart of the
Yeah.
spiritual battle
Okay.
that the text describes as being waged all around us,
Ooh.
while Satan and the fallen angels
Yeah.
are actively working
Okay.
to tempt and deceive humans.
Mhm.
The faithful angels
Yeah.
are portrayed as God's messengers,
Oh.
protectors, and warriors.
Like these two
Right.
opposing forces
Exactly.
vying for influence.
Yeah.
Not just in some grand cosmic sense,
Mhm.
but like in our everyday lives.
Exactly. The text
Yeah.
paints this picture of a constant struggle
Okay.
between good and evil,
Yeah.
with angels playing a key role
Yeah.
on both sides.
Right. And if the fallen angels are driven by
Yeah.
pride, defiance, desire to usurp God's authority,
Right.
what motivates the ones who stay loyal?
Well, the text
Yeah.
highlights several key themes.
Okay.
One is obedience.
Obedience.
These angels are described as completely subservient to God's will,
Okay.
carrying out his commands without question.
No hesitation.
For hesitate, it's like a perfect reflection
Yeah.
of that unwavering understanding we discussed earlier.
They know God?
They know God, they understand his will,
Uh-huh.
and they act accordingly.
Yeah.
No room for doubt
No second guessing?
or second guessing.
And then there's
This idea of love.
love, okay.
The text suggests
Yeah.
that these angels
Uh-huh.
are motivated by a deep and selfless love
Oh,
for
crap.
God
Yeah.
and a desire to serve him.
So
They're not just blind obedience.
about blind obedience. It's about acting out of a place
Yeah.
of genuine devotion.
Makes you wonder if that's part of what separates them.
Yeah, could be.
Right. Lucifer and his followers were
Yeah.
driven by ambition,
Maybe ambition and self-interest.
and these guys are driven by love and devotion.
It's a compelling argument.
It really is.
And it raises the question of whether love itself
Okay.
might be a key factor
Oh,
in this whole idea of forgiveness and redemption.
Right, because if God is love,
Exactly.
which the text says over and over again,
Over and over again.
then it stands to reason that actions
Yeah.
motivated by love
Right.
might be viewed differently
Might be.
than those.
Than those driven by selfish desires.
Right.
Exactly. And it ties back to our earlier discussion
Mhm.
about the nature of repentance.
Right.
Perhaps true repentance.
Is only possible
Like,
and there's a genuine love for God
okay.
at its core.
Right.
A desire to return
Yeah.
to that state of loving communion.
Which might be why it's available to humans,
Right.
but not to the angels.
Who chose to turn away from it.
Right.
It's a thought-provoking concept,
It really is.
isn't it?
It is.
It highlights the complexity
Yeah.
of this whole debate about unforgivable sin.
Right. It's not just about the act.
It's not just about the act itself,
It's about the motivation behind it.
the motivations behind it,
The capacity for change.
the capacity for change,
The role of love.
the role of love in divine justice and mercy.
Okay, so we've got these two groups of angels
Right.
representing good and evil
Yeah.
locked in this.
Locked in this ongoing spiritual battle.
Yeah. But if the fallen angels are doomed,
Right.
what's the end game for the faithful angels?
Well, the text provides a few clues.
Okay.
One is protection.
Protection.
Angels are often depicted
Okay.
as guardians, shielding believers from harm
Oh,
and fighting off demonic influences.
Like those stories we hear
Oh, exactly.
about angels appearing to protect people.
Exactly.
Or intervening to stop evil.
They're portrayed as spiritual warriors.
It almost makes you feel safer,
Right.
knowing there's this army fighting for good.
I think that's part of the message the text is trying to convey.
That we're not alone.
That we're not alone in this struggle.
But it goes beyond protection.
But the role of angels goes beyond just protection.
Okay.
They also serve as messengers.
Messengers, okay.
Conveying God's will.
Uh-huh.
Delivering important messages.
Like Gabriel appearing to Mary
Exactly.
to announce the birth of Jesus.
Angelic pronouncements
Yeah.
often mark turning points in biblical history.
Yeah.
Guiding individuals,
Right.
shaping the course of events.
So they're not just passive observers.
Right. They're actively involved
They're active participants.
in God's plan, carrying out his will. Interacting with humans in meaningful ways.
And that brings us to another interesting point.
Yeah.
The texts suggest that
That angels are deeply invested
angels are invested in human redemption.
in human redemption.
That's interesting.
They rejoice when a sinner repents and are portrayed as witnesses
Okay.
to our struggles and our triumphs.
So it's like they care,
Yeah, it's like they have a stake
even though
in our success,
it doesn't affect them.
even though they're not directly affected by our choices.
Which is weird because
It's strange, isn't it?
if they have this perfect understanding of God,
Yeah.
wouldn't they already know
That's a great question.
the outcome?
Yeah, and it touches on one of the
Yeah.
enduring mysteries of faith.
Yeah.
The interplay between divine foreknowledge
Yeah.
and human free will.
It's a big one.
Even with their heightened awareness,
Yeah.
the text seems to suggest
Yeah.
that angels are still captivated
By what?
by the drama of human existence.
Uh-huh.
The constant struggle between good and evil,
Yeah.
and the ultimate choice we
Yeah.
each make
Okay.
to embrace or reject God's love.
So they're watching
It's almost like they're watching
these play unfold.
this grand cosmic play unfold, knowing the ending,
Right.
but still moved by the performance of the actors on the stage.
It's a beautiful analogy.
It speaks to the idea
Yeah.
that even in the face of divine knowledge,
Uh-huh.
human choice still matters.
Our choices matter.
Our actions have consequences.
Not just for us, but for everyone.
Not just for ourselves,
For the whole thing.
but for the spiritual realm as well.
We're all participants in this
Come on.
cosmic battle, whether we realize it or not.
And that brings us to the final chapter
Yeah.
in this story of rebellion, judgment, and the consequences of unforgivable sin.
All right.
We've talked about Lucifer's fall,
Wow.
the role of the faithful angels, but we haven't yet addressed
That's right.
the ultimate fate of those who chose to follow Satan.
So what does the text say
Right.
about their eternal destiny?
Yeah.
So we've been talking about this cosmic battle
Right.
between good and evil
Yeah.
and the role that angels play on both sides.
Yeah.
But it's time to address the elephant in the room,
Okay.
the fate of those
Right.
who sided with Lucifer.
Yeah.
What does the text say about the eternal consequences for these fallen angels?
This is where the text gets really interesting. It doesn't shy away
Yeah.
from depicting the severity of their punishment.
Okay.
Eternal separation from God,
Okay.
often described as being cast
Right.
into eternal fire.
That sounds pretty intense.
Yeah.
But you've mentioned before that it might not be.
Right. It's not necessarily
Like literal flames.
That's about literal flames.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the text seems to be using fire
Okay.
as a metaphor
Okay.
to describe
Okay.
the complete and utter severance from God's presence,
Mm-hmm.
his love,
Okay.
his right.
So it's the ultimate state
And
of
it's the ultimate state of
spiritual darkness and isolation.
spiritual darkness and isolation.
That's a chilling
Yeah.
thought.
It's a chilling thought.
It is?
And the text goes on to describe
Okay.
this separation as a state of torment.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
whether that torment is meant to be understood
Okay.
literally or as more of a metaphorical representation of
Uh,
the spiritual anguish
Mhm.
of being cut off from God
Yeah.
is a matter of debate.
I could see how
Yeah.
just the thought of being
Yeah.
eternally separated from
Yeah.
the source of all love and goodness
Yeah.
would be agonizing in and of itself.
Of course.
But it still makes me wonder,
Yeah.
if God is all merciful,
Uh-huh.
why is there no possibility of redemption
That's a good question.
for these fallen angels?
Yeah.
Humans are offered
Yeah.
forgiveness and a path back to God,
All right.
even after committing terrible acts.
Yeah.
Why not them?
That's a question. that has challenged theologians for centuries.
It really has.
And I think the answer lies in the fundamental distinction. The text draws between human and angelic nature. Remember we talked about how angels are created with this perfect understanding of God and his divine order? They aren't subject to the same weaknesses, temptations, or limitations in understanding that humans face.
We're limited in a lot of ways.
We are.
So their rebellion
was a deliberate and informed choice made with full knowledge
of the consequences.
And it's that level of awareness that seems to make their sin unforgivable. They weren't misled or tempted. They consciously and willfully chose to defy God, knowing full well what they were turning away from.
It's like crossing a point of no return. Once you've reached that level.
It seems to be the message the text is conveying.
It's a scary thought.
It's a sobering thought.
It is. It makes you really think about it.
It makes you consider the weight of your own choices and the potential consequences.
Even if those consequences extend beyond our earthly understanding. It makes you realize that there's a profound seriousness
there is
to this spiritual battle. It's not just
some abstract
theological concept.
It
has real implications for how we live our lives.
And the choices that we make.
And
while the text paints this vivid picture, of the fate that awaits those who choose to follow Satan, it also offers a message of hope. For those who seek God's forgiveness and strive to live in accordance with his will.
It's a powerful reminder.
The contrast between the destinies of the faithful and the fallen angels.
That our choices matter.
Serves as a powerful reminder.
Both in this life.
That our choices matter.
And the next.
Both in this life and in the eternity. That lies beyond.
So this deep dive has taken us from
it really has.
Heights of heaven to the depths
of
eternal separation.
We've
explored some of the most profound questions.
Some big questions.
About good and evil.
Divine mercy.
The limits of divine mercy.
The consequences of our choices.
And the eternal consequences of our choices.
It's been quite a journey.
What stands out to you listening? What new insights have you gained?
What are you thinking?
From exploring these ancient texts. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep.